Mike Bloomberg is out. Well, I'd say down goes Mike Bloomberg, but he never went up in the first place. Now, he is the former mayor of New York City. He was once a Democrat, then a Republican, and then an independent. And the reason he's relevant is because he was thinking of running and has a gazillion dollars. He's got way more money than Donald Trump, and he had this credentials as an independent. And so anytime someone in this country who's a billionaire thinks of running for president, you got to take it seriously. Isn't that super sad? Like, if you want to run for president, good luck to you, brother. What do you think? This is a democracy? But at any time, what was that? At any time, one of these oligarchs can step in and go, should I buy the presidency? At least let me think about it, right? And he did. He thought long and hard about it, analyzed it, did a trial balloon, and has decided that he is not going to come in, okay? He is not your father or founding father or anything along those lines. And that's because of two things. Number one, what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, hey, I was scared out of my mind about Bernie Sanders becoming president. Earlier, he talked about how he thought Bernie Sanders, no, don't do that, it's super crazy. Why Bloomberg sells Bloomberg terminals, how he got those billions of dollars in the first place, to Wall Street, okay? So that's where he made all of his money. And so if Bernie Sanders was president, Bloomberg would have torn whatever hair he's got left out. So he couldn't have Sanders. Apparently, he's confident enough now that Sanders is not going to win, according to his estimates. And if you have Hillary Clinton winning, apparently Wall Street can live with that. Now, Bloomberg's got its upsides. He's got his downsides, right? And the downsides are he represents Wall Street, and enthusiastically so. And he believes in the tax cuts they get, all the advantages, all the bailouts, and on it goes. And in New York City, his stop and frisk was a disaster, okay? He does have his upsides. He's for much tighter gun control, so we have less mass shootings. He's pro-choice. And so there's a number of good things about Mike Bloomberg, too, and he is an interesting character. But here, as he departs probably now for good from the national stage, because if he doesn't run for president this year, obviously very likely he won't, given his age, in future years. So I want to give you Bloomberg's upside. The second reason he decided not to run was because of Trump and Cruz. So let me quote Bloomberg's own editorial. He says, as the race stands now, with Republicans in charge of both houses, there's a good chance that my candidacy could lead to the election of Donald Trump or Senator Ted Cruz. That is not a risk I can take in good conscience. Well, good on you, Bloomberg. Good on you. So I like Bloomberg early on in his administration when he was mayor, when he was actually at his least popular. He did some actions that were necessary, but that pissed off a lot of constituencies in New York. And I think he was in the 30s early on. And I said, look, that's a real leader. And I like that because those were tough decisions, but I agreed with him. Later, he got too obsessed with power, and stop and frisk was out of control. His support of Wall Street, he basically crushed Occupy Wall Street and ran them out of town and shut off the press while doing so. I thought power got to his head and was against him. But if this is his swan song and this is how he leaves politics, well, he leaves it as a person of some principle. Because not only does he mention Donald Trump there, and I'm going to give you more details, but he also threw in Ted Cruz. It's very important that you understand that Ted Cruz is at least as dangerous as Donald Trump. Rubio and Kasich, we've got issues with. They're Republicans. We disagree with them on so many things, tax cuts, budgets, wars in the Middle East, etc. But Cruz and Trump are a different level of demagogue and dangerous. So the fact that he notices that Cruz is in that same camp and wants to point that out is fantastic. Now, he gives more details on Trump. He says, I have known Mr. Trump casually for many years, and we have always been on friendly terms. I've even agreed to appear on The Apprentice twice, but he has run the most divisive and demagogic presidential campaign I can remember, preying on people's prejudices and fears. Abraham Lincoln, the father of the Republican Party, appealed to our better angels. Trump appeals to our worst impulses. To which I say, damn. Okay, that was pretty strong language. He's got more where that came from. He says threatening to bar foreign Muslims from entering the country is a direct assault on two of the core values that gave rise to our nation: religious tolerance and the separation of church and state. Now, let me note here for a second that Michael Bloomberg happens to be Jewish, as is Bernie Sanders. And here's two guys who are standing up for Muslims as strong as any voice in the country. Along with, by the way, Abe Foxman, the Anti-Defamation League, and the list goes on. See, that's America. That's the America I love, where we all band together and understand that we're a nation of immigrants, that we work together, we don't discriminate against anyone. Because that once you start that discrimination, there is no end to it. And we stick together to make sure we all have equal rights. So he continues, attacking and promising to deport millions of Mexicans, feigning ignorance of white supremacists, and threatening China and Japan with a trade war are all dangerously wrong too. These moves would divide us at home and compromise our moral leadership around the world. The end result would be to embolden our enemies, threaten the security of our allies, and put our own men and women in uniform at greater risk. All true. And let me end with one more quote from Bloomberg. He says, I love our country too much to play a role in electing a candidate who would weaken our unity and darken our future. Wow. Now, those are words about Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. So take note. So Bloomberg, it appears, has done the right thing here, and you have to commend him for that.